Hi, my name is Lon Schaefer. I am a project manager for BizE-Life. And BizE-Life is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to bring on new entrepreneurs as well tradesmen to grow economically for the world. And our job today is to talk about some of the changes that's going to revolutionize how we do business and how we are going to be moving forward working in this new economy. And our special guest today is an innovator, Bruce Brimacombe.
Yeah.
He is the CEO of GoE3.
That's correct.
And Bruce, we want your perspective on what you think are the 5 key things that are going to change life as we know it.
This is the first time we've had so many disruptive technologies happening at the same time. We have housing, we have health, we have transportation, we have power, and we have societal changes happening, everything at the same time. And this has been being driven by a group of up-and-coming consumers called the millennials. Mm-hmm. They have a certain way of doing things. They tend to like to life experiences. They don't want to own vehicles. They don't want to own houses. They just want to do things and go on life. Well, that's going to change the way we do transportation in a lot of ways. We'll be having vehicle leasing services, not in the traditional way we lease now, where you have one vehicle and it's yours. You'll pay so much a month and you'll be able to pick up a vehicle all over the cities that you go to, drive it and return it. So when you need a car, you got it. When you don't, you don't.
It's almost like rental.
It is.
But no contract.
But it's a month-to-month contract or an annual contract or whatever the terms may come to be. You're going to have access to every vehicle that's available in the city. So that's going to change the way we do transportation. That coupled with the communications and connected vehicles moving towards autonomous vehicles. Right now we kill about 68,000 people a year, maim 250,000. And approximately 500,000 cars are damaged a year.
And how do you see this as being a big change for us in terms of autonomous car, and how does it become part of our society then?
Well, the autonomous vehicle then communicates with each other, and they reduce the amount of accidents down to approximately 50,000 a year. You kill about 10,000 people a year, and you wound less than 20.
How does that compare to what we are doing right now?
Well, like I said before, the damage, we're killing 68,000 a year, and we're
that's
maiming.
Dramatic change.
Dramatic change, and it's also going to reduce the overall cost of insurance companies, which is why this is going to be happening so fast. It's going to reduce the damage to human beings. It's going to reduce the economic damage. It's going to put everything in a lot smoother environment. Also, it'll expend out our highways to reduce the amount of money and capital we have to throw into our highways. Technically speaking, if these cars were talking to each other and could adjust their distance between each other without having a potential for an accident, we could increase our, you're not going to believe this in LA and some of the other places, but you can increase the traffic flow 92% without having to build anything. So
we don't have a lot of rush hour then, do you think?
No, it'll be a lot quicker because the vehicles are connected to each other, and they say, okay, I'm here and you're here, I'm moving here, and they're communicating in milliseconds versus seconds. If you and I see something pop up on the road, it takes us a couple seconds to recognize and react. Right. These things will connect in milliseconds, and they react instantly. So you're going to be seeing a whole move towards safer environments, wider usage of roads, lack of having to build them out as expanding them more, and the reduction of sound barriers and everything that we're having to build to keep the sounds down in the cities is all going to go away. We're going to have that coupled with moving to the electric vehicle, and the reason that is because of internal combustion engine, even though there's a lot of people who want to stay with it, is much slower in reaction time. Okay.
So electric cars is a lot different in that way?
A lot faster. Their response is faster. It's milliseconds. It's instant on, instant off. You can communicate to the computer and move it faster. It can respond better, and all of that to say that that's going to be the driving force. And so with that in the transportation industry, that brings on the change. The next change is going to be into the power generation industry.
Right.
For the first time in history, this year, Arizona benefited by California's solar program. Now, you're going, how did that happen?
Explain to me as if I'm a 5-year-old. What does that mean?
That means there was so much solar in California during the wintertime, they had to ask Arizona to take the power.
Really?
And they sold it to them for a profit. So, in other words, Arizona was paid to take this extra power.
Arizona was paid
by
to
California
take?
to
Really?
take the power because the grid couldn't support it all.
Oh, so would that mean that they need to look at changing the grid system?
The grid system is going to change. It's moving to microgrids, and this is what this is all telling us. We are having a massive change in the way everything is. Power companies will move towards more of a distribution company and not so much a generation company. The generation will be more on the local ends, the bigger locations where there's potential for cleaner power. That's what's going to end up happening. So we're going to have cleaner power development. With the onset of batteries changing and making things better, we're going to have the ability to have our grid, as it were, balance out. There's always to say that there's valleys and peaks.
Right.
At night, currently we throw away about 60 to 80% of the power that's generated just to keep the grid up. Okay, so now if we bring on electric cars, charge them at night, bring them into the city when there's high demand during the day, you plug them in and you can pull the power back off the car to feed the city.
Oh, so the car will end up being a generator in itself, a mini generator?
Yeah, it'll carry about 90 kilowatts. The average person only drives 27 miles a day to and from work.
Right.
So unless they're going between cities or any length of drive, which they will have the option to opt out, if they don't opt out, the machine will pull. The grid will pull off during the day, reduce the amount of power that's needed to run the dirty power plants, reduce the amount of power that's needed to generate everything. So your whole cost of production of power is going to go way down.
So in a sense, me as a driver, I can actually feed the grid with my own electric car.
Yes.
Instead of the reverse way. Because the way now is, my understanding is, I have to spend money to charge up my car.
Yes.
And that electricity cost to me was more expensive than if I go and get a gasoline per gallon.
That's,
you see what I mean?
That's never been true. Okay?
Really?
At home, you're probably pennies on the gallon.
Really?
Okay. It's 2 cents a mile at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is that with subsidies or without subsidies?
No, there's no subsidies at all. That's
okay.
See, at night there's so much demand, so much reduced demand on the power grid. They sell the power at night at a lower rate. Demand charges show the power at night at a much lower rate.
Right.
So you program your car to start taking the power middle of the night when nobody's using it.
Ah.
So they give you a discounted rate.
Right.
So and then when it drives into the city, the power company pulls it off of you and sells it at a higher rate to the people who need it.
So technically, let's just say that I have an electric car and I end up charging at night. It will be, let's just say hypothetically, 5 cents per gallon in comparison, right? I drive that car to my work, which roughly about half an hour drive, which come out to be about 20 miles or whatever, right? I park the car, I charge it up, or I plug it into a charger, a station or whatever. That station during the day when I'm at work actually is feeding the electrical grid. So how much can I charge
You don't get to, as an individual, you don't get to charge. The power company does. However, the benefit to you is you pay a less charge at night to fill your car up.
Because I'm feeding it later on. Ah.
So you get a discount. So you can see how the microgrids, the solar power, the wind, and the battery backups, which is really important. Battery backup is because of electric cars, there's so many batteries coming online, and the battery companies are building, there's millions and millions of production capabilities added every day to batteries, and they're only getting better and more efficient. What'll end up happening is over time, these batteries come off usage off of vehicles, they will only reduce to about 50%. So that makes them perfect to back up solar from night. So you charge the batteries to 50% and they can feed the grid back in at night. So all these things are going to start to develop almost a totally self-sufficient grid system without the need for petroleum or coal or any of those things.
Okay, so then that brings me to the next point. You were mentioning about changes at home and change it at transportation we've dealt with. So tell me about home.
All right, health is a big driver of that.
Okay.
All right, so health. We've had a really sneaky piece of technology. I call it sneaky because I like it. 3D printing is coming on. Now that may not sound like how does that relate to health, but they're already printing organs and they're already printing different parts of the human body. Excuse me, that allows them to use your own parts and fix you. So you can grow a kidney, you can grow a heart, you can grow your own other organs and repair yourself. So the health costs are going to start to come down. The whole value of what we used to treat ourselves for age-related diseases is going to go away. We're going to be able to proactively reverse our aging process, proactively fix our genetic weaknesses. All this is happening all at the same time. The technologies are all coming to the same play. We have a tremendous amount of research and actually functional treatments coming on. I, for example, had a car accident a year ago,
Right.
And it really decapacitated me. My left knee was basically torn in half. My rotator cuff was gone, and I've only had 2 treatments with my own stem cells, and they're both healed without having to have any surgery, without having to have any.
Your own cell repair your kneecap?
My knee and my shoulder.
Wow.
So, and I can.
What was the timeline? How took?
I got hurt in March, and at the end of September, it was end of August. I went down for the first treatment. I could barely walk. Okay, on my shoulder I couldn't lift. Now I can. My knee. This is the knee right here. I have complete usage of it now. I can walk up and down hills. I can almost run now. I had one. They took out. Love this. They give you a twofer. They take out the stem cells out of your fat content. They spin it down, they mix it with your blood, and they shoot it in.
I got a lot of cell.
Well, that's what the doctor
I have a lot of stem cells ready to be given away to somebody else.
Yeah, but what they do is the reason our joints can't heal is because there's no blood flow.
Right.
They're sealed.
Right.
So what they did is they shot it inside the joint with a needle, and all those stem cells and all that stuff was inside the joint to start to heal.
Really?
And it's all healed.
Even though they weren't, even though the joint didn't receive blood flow or anything, the stem cell it still rejuvenate itself?
Yes, it did.
Wow.
So,
nice.
and in my shoulder, same thing. Everything that's, I was told, I have never known anybody that had a rotator cuff operation that it actually worked on. Okay, so, and I've got full range of motion in my, only thing keeping is my jacket.
Yeah.
And my knee is completely fine. But what I'm saying is all these technologies are moving forward. Food, the way we produce food, the way everything is changing.
You know what? You brought up a great point. I work with an organization called Agriscaping. And right now, Agriscaping is being a huge part of my business because it's all about creating food in a landscape manner so that you basically, the tagline is you grow your own health.
Right.
Right? Because, you know, everything that we eat comes out in our health, basically, right? So anything that we put into the food, into the ground to produce food, it goes into our body, right?
Right.
So my thought is, well, okay, if that's the case, then currently we are taking food, food that travels to your grocery store is roughly about 1,500 miles. It travels 1,500 miles. Well, they have to pick that from another country. We don't know what they put into the soil, right? Pick another country, put it in storage, sort it out in a distribution center, then deliver it to the groceries. That's approximately a 3 weeks time frame. And food, nutritional value of food doesn't get planted into the food, the produce until the very last stage, which is roughly about a week's worth of growing is in the last week of growing. But if they pick it 3 weeks ahead of time, we get no nutritional value. That's why we have so many cancer.
Well, cancers, and I want to say this, cancers as a whole is an age-related disease. Our body starts to fray, our DNA starts to fray, and that's what starts cancer as a whole. Now, can we aggravate and cause cancer to come on our way? Yes, because we can eat the wrong thing and do the wrong thing. The advantage that all this is going to do is it's going to allow for an environment of growth in your local area with all the different technologies that's going to give you close related food, and it will be, and I hesitate to use the word organic because it's been so misused.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but
Organic doesn't even really mean organic anymore.
No,
they
it
add
doesn't.
every year FDA or USDA add 11 more chemical to the pesticide thing.
yeah, every time we turn around. But the point about all this is just along with the healthcare and everything going on, food, all these technologies happening is going to drive us to the point. Now, this is what's real important. The entrepreneurs are needed more than ever because corporations are slow at adopting technology.
Yes.
All right, entrepreneurs are always ahead of the curve, and America, for some reason, even with all the last 40 years of everybody trying to stop it, has always produced entrepreneurs. So what we need to understand is we need to teach them tools to keep them from making mistakes, to give them the ability to process and to do everything the right way, and start at a young age, okay?
Right.
Teach them how to think appropriately from the beginning. And that's why all these processes are starting to happen. If you can just imagine all 5 of these technologies happening at the same time, what kind of doors is that going to open for the small business guy?
Remind us again, what are the 5 technology you don't
We
know
have
about?
transportation.
Right.
Okay. Have energy.
Right.
That's a really big
That's
one.
a huge one.
We have our health. We have our food, and the 5th one, which it's how we as a world are going to adopt to this.
Okay.
With all these technologies coming into play, we're going to be a post-employment society.
What does that mean to you?
That means working for 9 to 5 jobs will disappear. Improving society will be the job. Okay, how do I take this technology and add more to it and do all those things?
Value added, right?
Value added versus cranking out parts over and over and over again. So what we have to know is where we're going with this is we have to be very aware that society as we know it is going to be run by people who want to make things good, not the people who work 9 to 5.
So let's talk about that. As you know, we currently have an education system that really does not promote entrepreneur. I know everybody talks about entrepreneurship and building a business and so forth, but in reality, from what I can gather from schools, the curriculum that's being taught is something that is top down.
It's
And
COG related.
Exactly. It's very much how to get along so that you can be a worker bee. They're teaching worker bees, right?
Right.
And what you're saying is 9 to 5 worker bees no longer going to be existing.
Yeah, that's right. Technology is going to wipe it out.
Right. So how does one combat that?
Well,
Against that mind grain that starts from preschool to kindergarten, grade school, high school. How do
Well,
you
the
go
first
that?
way to solve a problem is to realize it exists. All of the people in society are screaming. All the people who are in technology, all the people who are in what's happening in the changes are screaming, guys, wake up. This is what's going to happen. You've got to be prepared when this society changes in order to know how to think better. How to know, don't worry about going to work and cranking out your job for the day because that's not going to be there.
What do you mean by know how to work better?
Well, okay.
Or think better.
All right. They always say necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
Okay. That's got to be the driving force of people's thoughts from now on. They've got to find something. And with all these technologies, all the different processes of things we've used to have done in our life is going to be changing. So you can't just say, I'm going to have better health. Well, you're going to have better health. What? We're going to have food. I actually saw an experiment where they were able to create a poorly done, but a pseudo-organic process by using coal and acids. They created a DNA and they printed it. So
What
it
do you
took
mean printed it?
They tried to print a steak. It didn't come out well, but this was 3 years ago.
I don't want to eat that steak.
Okay, but no, but it used the DNA.
Right.
It created it to try to create a flesh mentality that was never alive. Now it's moved light years forward, and all of you guys can look up and see what's happening. Food is not going to be grown the way it's ever been done before, and it's not going to be. We are just a few years, if at the absolute least a decade away from the Star Trek replicator.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing you mentioned about the 3D printer and how this food going to be changed. But the problem I see with the 3D replicator is it is synthetic. And because it's synthetic, we often think, well, if it's not natural to our body that we, you can't change how the body
Why
is
would it be
consuming
synthetic?
food.
Why would it be synthetic?
Because it's being replicated. It's being printed out. It's what's the material that is inputted into that
Raw
printer?
DNA.
What's a raw DNA?
DNA is what is the building blocks it uses. Or DNA is built up of carbon and acid. That's how it's built.
So you mean that my steak is going to be acid and what was it?
Carbon.
Carbon?
Well, you're built of that. Everything, a cow's built of that. The only thing is it'll never be alive. It will be printed exactly the way it was when you want it.
That is scary though.
All this is scary, but the truth of the matter is we don't have a choice. This is not something we can ignore. We have all of these happening at the same time.
So you think that people are not going to grow food or anything like that anymore?
I would say that we're not 30 years away from that.
Wow.
The whole point is, what do we do to?
Well, look at that. If you can have the Star Trek replicator, there's no need for chefs anymore or restaurants,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they're just for the show, just like Benihana.
Yeah.
The guy is just for show, people. He's not really the chef, right?
Well, that's true, and so some of the things that I think that the entrepreneurs are going to need to think about is how do I move what was a manual process into this environment, because all the housing, the power, all these things still had other pieces to them, other technologies, other things that we did manually. Your garden, for example, there's going to be ways we can, let's just say we can print it to a certain degree and reproduce it without having to it being alive, or you can reproduce plants or whatever. You're still going to end up with a need to process it differently, okay? Deliver it differently. How do we set up? The entrepreneurs have got more work to do now with all these changes in technology than they've ever had before.
You know what you brought up to me that I think of when you said that is it becomes more customization.
Yeah, most certainly.
And I think of an entrepreneur as somebody who just like, okay, I see a potential for something to be created that was not originally there.
Right. And see, the question is, we're going to back to the societal thing. We are no longer than 29, 30 years away at the most from being able to live as long as we want to, avoiding accidents and killing each other. The technology that's coming along with extending telomeres and telomerase and all the different things that are happening to reduce the aging process is going to change the amount of people in society. We're going to have to take responsibility for how many people are on this planet. We're going to have to start thinking as a society what is needed and what isn't needed.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. And
we're going to have to be realistic on how we approach that. The world is changing very fast. If we don't kill ourselves out of stupidity, it's going to be straight to Jedi within 50 years, where you will not be able to look in the future and see a recognizable path to the past, because everything is going to be changing. How people work, how people live. Elon Musk even said something, and so did Bill Gates and a few others have said we're in a post-employment society. We have to come up with a universal base income. And then the question is, what do the worker bees do with their mind? And it's a really painful thing, is a lot of them won't want to adjust.
That is true. Change is very difficult for any human being. I'm one of the poster child of change. I don't like it. So, but if I understand you're right, how does one prepare for that? My understanding of Busy Life is that we are here not because we have all the answers for you, because it's all about customization, right?
Right.
It's about the tools that we have and the people who help you to navigate the tools.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So that you can create a true customization of who you are to the world and what value you give to that world
Correct.
specifically, right?
Correct.
And that's how you see that the world has to change. The worker bee is going to have to change how they think of themselves as being, what is my value, and how do I fit into this new world?
Right. They're going to have to think for themselves.
Right.
Instead of being told they need to work here and this is what they have to do, they're going to have to start thinking, how do I add? That mindset has got to change.
Now, do you see that it's going to change how we educate people in the future?
Oh yes, there was a movie called Robots a few years ago that played what was his name? Oh gosh.
Mel Gibson?
No.
Not
forget
Mel
about
Brooks,
it.
is
Mel
it?
Brooks, yes.
Really?
Mel Brooks.
Okay.
Thank you. Mel Brooks played a giant robot that said, "Find a need, fill a need."
Okay.
Okay, that is what this is all going to be about. Finding the little niches that need to be fulfilled and filling it.
Well, you know that's not bad, because right now I'm experiencing that in my own life. I actually hire a gentleman to be my own personal gardener because I wasn't going to be outdoor. Forget it, right? I will
Right.
hire someone to do it, and he loved it. He's a guy who loves to be out there, showing me what can be grown, where to grow, and design it for me. But he didn't want to go about marketing himself. So I was like, hey, that's my forte. So I fill his need by saying, hey, I want to help you market yourself and then you help me to grow my own food so that I can eat what I want to eat.
Which
right?
brings up a part of another change that's occurring as well. Everybody's heard of Bitcoin.
Right.
The interchange between currencies is going to go away as well. People are going to want a more stable currency market, and that's what Bitcoin is doing. It allows for transition into value in different countries without having to go swap it in, pay a fee, and all that.
Exchange, yeah, the exchange rate, the foreign exchange rate.
Yeah,
Yes.
so all of that is going to be changing as technology increases as well. So all of the things, the one thing that you can count on beyond belief is change is going to happen. That is the one constant. Change is going to happen. And people are going to have to start accelerating their mindset to think that is the only promise. That is the only thing that's stable. Change is going to happen.
And how can I be that change that is
Right.
coming, right?
That's right. That's right.
So tell me, how does Go E3 fit into all this?
Well, we designed a station that supports the electric cars, that do all the different plugs that are involved in the electric cars, and we also support the system of how to market to the people who own them and how to market through the whole process. So what we're involved in is the transportation and the marketing system change with regarding to the millennials and how those pieces work. But the EVs are the way of the future. There were 48
What's EV?
electric vehicles
Okay, EV.
are the way of the future. There were 48 at this year's event, Detroit Auto Show. There will be 219 next year.
Wow.
So you can count on EVs being the way things go. They're already pushing electric semis and all the things that.
Right.
So we're going to have an environment to where we have a rolling communication of mesh communications, which is going to bring on a privacy problem. Which all these things that are going to be happening need entrepreneurs to fill the needs. They need to be aware and looking at how they can participate in filling, which is going to bring back something that we used to do, which was strategic alliances and supporting each other. So competition, as we know it, is not right. It's a virus. Working together towards a goal we multiply our ability to do things. So, there's always saying, oh, McDonald's is on this corner and Burger King's never going to be run over there. Well, they love being next door to each other.
Right.
Okay, so that's why we always have these clusters of restaurants. So the value is to start to think more like that instead of the other way.
Right. It's not about you against me. It's more, how do
You
you
and I
work
create,
together?
Yeah, and how do we create a bigger market?
Exactly. And that's a great segment to the next version that we're going to be talking about, which we will come back. and discuss about how collaboration and consume, how people are consuming things and services and collaboration works in the future. And let's have a chance to discuss that.
That sounds
as a
great.
separate-
That
Thank
sounds
you so
good.
much. Thank you so much for everyone to join us on this first launch of BizE Life and how we are going to change the world and bring wealth to our community by connecting our innovators with our resources and change the world. Thank you.
Thanks.